What if I told you that your peace of mind is not up for negotiation? What if I told you that no one, not your partner, not your boss, not even your own family, should have the power to disturb your soul? Because here's the truth. If they can anger you, they can control you. And the moment you give someone the keys to your peace, you just made them your master. These aren't just my words. They echo the teachings of Shi Heng Yi, a Shaolin master, and the tough love truths spoken by Denzel Washington, who once told a room full of women, "You attract what you tolerate. If you want peace, you must choose it ruthlessly." Tonight, I want to show you how to never let anyone, no matter how toxic, manipulative, or disrespectful, shake you again. What you have to understand is this. Detachment is not cruelty. It is not rudeness. It is not giving up. It is self-protection. It is the art of choosing your peace over someone else's chaos. In a world where everyone wants a reaction from you, where people poke, push, and provoke to pull you into their storm, detachment is the shield you carry into the battlefield of life. You're not cold. You're not heartless. You're just finally learning to not set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Think about it. How many times have you over-explained yourself to someone who didn't even want to understand you? How many nights have you cried over words that were said in anger, and then dismissed as just a joke? How many times did you allow someone to rent space in your head, while they slept peacefully at night, completely unaware of the damage they were causing? That is why detachment is necessary. It's not about shutting down emotionally. It's about learning to respond with calm instead of chaos. Detachment says, I see what you're doing. I recognize the pattern. But this time I choose me. It's not revenge. It's clarity. It's not anger. It's awareness. There's a moment in life, maybe you felt it, when someone says something sharp to you, something that used to make your blood boil, and instead of reacting, you smile. Not because you're weak, not because you're scared, but because you finally understand, not everything deserves my energy. That's the moment you begin to detach. Denzel Washington once said, just because you're doing more doesn't mean you're getting ahead. And that applies here too. Just because you keep trying to fix every broken relationship, answer every call, explain every decision, doesn't mean you're growing. Sometimes growth looks like silence. Sometimes strength looks like walking away with grace. Picture this. You're sitting at a dinner table. Someone makes a passive-aggressive comment meant to humiliate you. In the past, you'd snap. You'd defend. You'd make sure they knew they crossed a line. But today, you just smile. Take a sip of your water and let it pass. That's detachment. That's power. Because you didn't let them dictate your mood. You didn't hand them the remote control to your emotional state. Shi Heng Yi, a master of mental discipline, teaches that control over the self is the highest form of freedom. And the truth is, anyone who can trigger you owns a piece of you. So what do? You take it back. You detach. Not from love, not from compassion, but from the belief that your peace has to be tied to someone else's behavior. You can love people and still detach from their dysfunction. You can forgive people and still protect your boundary. You can help people and still say no when it costs you your sanity. You are not responsible for healing someone who keeps cutting you. You are not obligated to engage with every argument thrown your way. You are allowed to rise above, not because you're better but because you've outgrown the need to always be right, to always be heard, to always get even. And here's something life will teach you again and again. Not everyone gets access to the healed version of you. Some people only knew the version of you that tolerated disrespect in the name of love, who explained herself into exhaustion, who thought loyalty meant self-abandonment. That version is gone. She evolved. She chose peace. She chose distance. Detachment is saying, I don't hate you but I love me more. It's looking at the storm and saying, not today. It's hearing the same old manipulation and finally choosing not to dance with the drama. Your peace is your power. And when you master detachment, you stop being the puppet and start being the hand that holds the strings. When someone tries to bait you with their toxic energy, don't bite. When they ghost you to get a reaction, don't chase. When they belittle you to feel big, don't shrink. Look them dead in the eyes with calmness and confidence. And let your lack of reaction be louder than any comeback ever could be. Because that's real strength. That's real healing. That's the energy of someone who finally realized, I'm not hard to love. I just refuse to be disrespected. I'm not too sensitive. I just no longer ignore red flags painted as love. I'm not walking away to hurt you. I'm walking away to protect me. Emotional control is not about pretending that you don't feel anything. It's not about suppressing your emotions or acting like you're unbothered when you're breaking inside. It's about learning how to master your emotions before your emotions master you. Because the truth is, if they can trigger you, they can own you, and no one should have that much power over your peace. Let me be clear. The most dangerous person in any room is not the loudest one, not the most aggressive one, and not the one who throws the first punch. The most dangerous person in the room is the one who can sit in chaos and still remain calm, the one who can get insulted, provoked, lied to, and still look back and say, I'm in control of me. You don't get to steer this ship. You see, the world will test you daily. Someone will cut you off in traffic. A coworker will try to discredit your effort. A partner might disrespect your boundaries, and your natural instinct, the human instinct, is to react, to defend, to attack. But every time you react without thinking, you hand someone the remote control to your emotional state. You say, here, press any button and I'll dance. That's not power, that's emotional slavery. And we've all been there. Think about a time someone said something that wasn't even that serious, but because of the way you were already feeling, it set you off. Not because they were right, but because you weren't in control. You were tired, stressed, anxious, and boom, the wrong word hit you like gasoline on fire. That's why emotional control is not just a strength. It's a skill, a discipline, a choice. Denzel Washington once said, you pray for rain, you gotta deal with the mud too. What does that mean? You want love, you want peace, you want success, then you have to develop the emotional muscle to handle the hard conversations, the disrespect, the judgment, the pressure, without losing your cool. Because emotional control is how you protect your power. It's how you protect your energy in a world that's always trying to rob it. Because life won't stop throwing problems at you just because you decided to heal. It'll keep testing you over and over, until you prove, I don't fold like I used to. I don't break at the same point. I don't respond just because I'm provoked. Let's take a simple daily example. You're at work. You've been busting your back for weeks on a project. Your manager walks in, barely looks at it, and says, is that all? In that moment, your ego flares up. Your pride wants to snap. You feel the fire in your chest, the heat rising to your face. That's the test. That's the moment where emotional control becomes your superpower. You take a breath. You don't suppress the feeling, but you also don't serve it. You say to yourself, this isn't about me. This is about their inability to recognize value. I know what I brought to the table. That's not weakness. That's dominance over your own state. Shi Heng Yi teaches that when you train the mind, the body follows. When the mind is still, your actions are wise. Because let's be honest, how many problems in life came not from what people did to us, but from how we reacted? How many relationships ended not because of what was said, but because of what was yelled back in anger? The power is always in the pause. In the 3 seconds you give yourself to decide, do I speak from my wounds, or do I speak from my wisdom? That moment changes everything. You don't owe anyone your anger. You don't owe them your reaction. You don't have to match their energy. Let them yell. Let them gossip. Let them try to bring you down to their level. Your job is to stay grounded. That's real confidence. That's emotional maturity. Imagine this. You're arguing with someone and halfway through you just stop. You look at them, calm and unshaken, and say, you know, you're not worth me losing my peace today. That's not weakness. That's emotional authority. The old you used to fight every battle. The healed you chooses your peace over proving a point. The old you used to react instantly. The evolved you pauses, breathes, and walks away from things that no longer deserve your energy. Because emotional control doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you feel everything. But you choose your response with intention, not impulse. And when you reach that level, you stop being a puppet in someone else's drama. You become the director of your own peace. You are no longer reactive. You are responsive. And there is a massive difference between the two. One is power given away. The other is power owned, protected, and preserved. Your value is not up for discussion. It's not up for compromise. It's not something that others get to decide. It's not based on who stays, who loves you, who chooses you, or who walks away. Your value is non-negotiable, even on the days when you feel ignored, underestimated, or forgotten. It's not tied to external validation. It lives inside you, unshaken, untouched, and undiminished by anyone else's inability to see it. Let me ask you something. If someone gave you a diamond and told you it was worthless, would you throw it away, or would you laugh? Because you already know its value doesn't change based on someone else's opinion. That's you. That's your worth. Just because someone doesn't recognize it, doesn't mean it isn't there. You could be glowing with brilliance, and some people will still act like you're nothing special. Not because you're not, but because they've never seen that kind of light before. Some people are too blind, too broken, or too small-minded to recognize the depth, the strength, the power you carry. That is not your problem to fix. Stop trying to prove your worth to people who would question it no matter what you do. That's like handing someone $1 million and begging them to believe it's real. Either they see it, or they don't. And if they don't, you walk away, with your head high. Denzel Washington once said, "You'll never be criticized by someone doing more than you. You'll always be criticized by someone doing less." That's why you don't shrink. That's why you don't dim your light, just to make others feel comfortable in their darkness. That's why you don't negotiate your value, to fit into spaces that were never built to hold your greatness. You want to know when people really start to respect you, not when you chase, not when you explain, not when you overextend, but when you stop doing all of that. When you finally say, "I'm not begging to be understood anymore. I'm not overcompensating to be chosen. I know who I am, and if that makes me too much for some, then they're simply not enough for me." People treat you according to what you allow. If you tolerate disrespect, silence, gaslighting, and inconsistency, you teach them that you're willing to settle for crumbs. But when you say, "No, I'm not accepting that. I know what I bring to the table," suddenly everything shifts. The room gets quieter. People start paying attention. Not because you got louder, but because you stopped chasing respect and started demanding it with your energy. Take a simple, everyday example. You're always the one texting first. Always the one showing up. Always the one making effort in a relationship, friendship, love, family. And one day you stop, you pull back. Not to play games, but because you realize, if I stop trying, it all falls apart. That means I was holding this together alone. That's the moment you realize your worth was never matched. And from that moment on, you stop watering dead plants. Shi Heng Yi says, "If you don't value yourself, don't expect others to." That hits hard because it's true. You teach people how to treat you by what you accept. If you let someone walk all over you, they'll keep walking, because you became the pavement. If you stay quiet every time they disrespect you, they'll keep doing it because your silence becomes permission. You are not required to be available to people who disrespect you. You are not obligated to keep proving your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You are allowed to leave the table when love is no longer being served, and you are allowed to do it without guilt. Stop apologizing for your standards. Stop feeling bad for cutting off access to people who drain you. Stop explaining why you won't tolerate being treated like an afterthought. That's not ego. That's self-respect. That's emotional maturity. That's knowing your value and refusing to put it on clearance for people who shop with small minds and shallow hearts. You were not born to convince people of your worth. You were born to live it, to walk into every room with silent confidence, to speak less and shine more, to know that your value isn't defined by who chooses you. It's defined by how you choose yourself when others don't. So the next time someone tries to devalue you, manipulate you, or downplay your greatness, just smile and remember, you're not here to be liked. You're here to be respected. You're not here to be validated. You're here to be aligned. And if anyone can't see your worth, it's because they weren't meant to sit at your table in the first place. Stillness is a weapon that most people never learn how to use. In a world that glorifies noise, speed, and constant reaction, stillness is mistaken for weakness, but it's not. It's the sharpest blade in your arsenal, because when everyone else is running, chasing, talking, and reacting, you are standing still, grounded, unshaken. And that silence, that pause, that breath, that is power most people will never understand. Stillness is not about doing nothing. It's about doing the right thing, with precision, with control, and only when necessary. Stillness is the ability to stand in the middle of the storm and say, "I will not be moved." It is a decision to remain calm when the world expects you to break. It's walking through fire with cold eyes and a steady heart. The loudest person in the room isn't always the strongest. Sometimes it's the quiet one in the corner, watching, listening, calculate, because stillness allows you to see clearly. It gives you the upper hand. When you are still, you are thinking, and when you are thinking, you are winning. Have you ever been in a heated argument where someone throws everything at you? Insults, blame, guilt, and instead of yelling back, you just look at them. You don't raise your voice. You don't match their energy. You just breathe, calm, cool, collected. And that silence, that stillness, it shakes them more than any words ever could, because they were expecting fire, and you brought ice. They wanted a reaction, and you gave them restraint. That's not weakness, that's dominance. Shi Heng Yi teaches that true strength is not explosive. It is contained. It is having the power to destroy, but choosing not to. And stillness is the art of mastering that power. It's not about suppressing your emotions. It's about owning them so deeply that they no longer own you. Denzel Washington said, "Sometimes the best response is no response." That's a hard lesson to learn in a world that tells you to clap back, speak up and fight everything. But when you realize that your energy is sacred, you start to protect it differently. You stop defending your character to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop proving your worth to people who never valued it in the first place. And you stop giving reactions to people who thrive on chaos. Stillness says, "I see you but I won't give you what you're looking for." Stillness says, "I hear you but I don't need to reply." Stillness says, "I could respond, but peace is more valuable than being right." Imagine someone trying to provoke you, maybe at work, maybe in your own home. They know your buttons, they press them with precision. In the past you'd explode, you'd take the bait, you'd argue for hours, feel drained, then regret it. But this time you just nod, you stay seated, you stay still, you've outgrown the trap. That's the moment you realize you've stepped into a new version of yourself. Stillness is how warriors think before they strike. It's how leaders listen before they speak. It's how kings and queens hold their throne in the middle of madness. It's not that they don't feel pressure, it's that they don't bow to it. Stillness makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. When they can't read you, they can't control you. When they don't know what you're thinking, they don't know how to manipulate you. Stillness creates mystery, and mystery demands respect. You don't have to respond to everything. Not every insult deserves a defense. Not every attack needs a counter. Sometimes your silence is the loudest message you'll ever send. Sometimes your stillness is the wall that their chaos crashes against. You can be in the middle of a storm, and still be the calmest presence in the room. That's what changes the game. That's what breaks patterns. That's what sets the tone. Because when you are still, you are unshakable. And when you are unshakable, you become untouchable. Stillness is the pause before power. It is the moment of breath before the breakthrough. It is how you hold yourself when everything is falling apart and still say, "This doesn't control me, I control me." Stillness isn't a lack of action. It's intentional, focused, purposeful energy. And when you walk through life with that kind of control, you stop being someone who reacts to the world and become someone who moves it. The power of the pause is one of the most underrated strengths a person can ever master. In a society obsessed with speed, instant replies, fast decisions, quick comebacks, we've lost sight of the wisdom that lives inside the pause. The pause is where clarity is born. It's where truth reveals itself. It's where your higher self speaks louder than your ego. Most people don't pause. They react. Someone insults them. They snap. A situation stresses them. They panic. A mistake happens. They spiral. But those who understand the power of the pause don't just react. They respond. And there's a massive difference between the two. Reaction is immediate. It's emotional. Its raw. Response is intentional. It's measured. It's strong. Denzel Washington once said, "Don't allow someone else's foolishness to pull you out of character." That's where the pause becomes your weapon. You feel the heat rise. You feel your fists clench. Your words sharpen. Your heart race. And then you stop. You breathe. You hold. You choose not to move until you're back in control. That's not weakness. That's absolute power. You see, the pause gives you space to rise above the trigger. It gives you time to ask, is this worth my peace? Is this who I want to be right now? Is this my ego talking? Or is this my wisdom guiding me? And those questions can save your relationships, your reputation, your sanity. Take a simple daily life example. Your drive. Someone cuts you off recklessly and gives you a rude gesture. Your blood boils. The old you would have honked, yelled, chased them, maybe even ruined your whole day over a stranger's ignorance. But the new you, the you that knows the power of the pause, just exhales and smiles. You whisper to yourself, "Not worth it. I'm not handing over my peace to someone I'll never see again." And just like that, you win a war without ever raising a sword. Shi Heng Yi teaches that power does not come from force, but from presence, and presence begins with the pause. When you pause, you step out of the chaos, and into your awareness. You see everything clearly. You're no longer trapped in the moment. You're standing above it, making a conscious decision rather than falling into a subconscious pattern. The pause is where growth happens. It's that second where you want to scream, but you don't. That breath before you send the angry text, but choose not to. That moment before you quit in frustration, but decide to stay and fight smarter. Those seconds of silence carry more power than 1,000 loud words. Let's talk relationship. How many arguments could be avoided if someone just paused before speaking? How many breakups, regrets, and broken hearts could be spared if we simply paused to listen instead of trying to be right? You're in a heated conversation with someone you love. They say something that stings. The old version of you throws fire back. But this time, you pause. You don't run from the emotion, but you also don't let it drive the car. You sit in it, breathe through it, and speak with purpose instead of pain. That's emotional intelligence. That's maturity. That's power. There's also the pause before decisions. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is not making a move right away, letting the emotions settle, letting your mind catch up to your heart, giving yourself time to discern. Is this opportunity for me? Is this real love? Or just temporary attention? Is this fight even worth my time? People may call you slow. They may call you passive. Let them talk, because you're not just reacting. You're creating. You're creating a response from a place of stability, not survival. You're not being controlled by the noise. You're becoming the silence that commands the room when others are running wild, trying to prove themselves, trying to win every battle, trying to be seen and heard. You pause, and in that pause, you remember, you are not here to react to everything. You are here to master yourself, and mastery begins with mindfulness. The most powerful warriors aren't always the ones who swing first. Often they're the ones who wait, who assess, who breathe, who know that the smartest move isn't the loudest one. It's the most calculated one, because what you do in that pause can either escalate or elevate everything. You are not your anger. You are not your fear. You are not your impulse. You are the space between the trigger and the response. That space, the pause, is where your power lives. Let go, or be drowned. Those 5 words carry more truth than 1,000 lectures. Holding on is easy. We cling to pain, betrayal, regret, failed expectations, and people who were never meant to stay. We grip the past so tight our hands bleed, and then we wonder why we're exhausted, stuck, or suffocating. But life isn't meant to be held by force. It's meant to be lived in flow. If you don't learn how to release what's breaking you, it will break you completely. We've all been there, holding on to a relationship that's already dead, replaying a mistake from years ago, waiting for an apology that will never come. And every time we think about it, our chest tightens, our mood shifts, our peace disappears. That's the emotional chain we willingly carry, day after day, thinking if we just hold on long enough, something will change. But the truth is, nothing changes until you do. Imagine this. You're holding a rope, and someone's pulling on the other end, hurting you, betraying you, disrespecting you, and you're holding on because you're scared of what will happen if you let go. But the tighter you grip, the more your hands bleed. That's life. When you refuse to release what's already gone, the pain doesn't come from the person, the past, or the problem. It comes from your refusal to let it go. Denzel Washington said, "You'll never be happy if you're always trying to hold on to what's hurting you." And that hits different when you realize most of your suffering doesn't come from the world. It comes from your own resistance to release. You think you're being strong by holding on, but real strength, that's in surrender. That's in standing up and saying, "This chapter is over. I will not bleed for something that no longer feeds me." Shi Heng Yi teaches that when you hold on to anger, pain, and resentment, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Let that sink in. You carry all this weight for people who have already moved on. You replay moments they've forgotten. You sacrifice your joy for ghosts. But here's the truth. You don't heal by holding on. You heal by letting go. Think of daily life. Someone hurts you, betrays you. Maybe they lied. Maybe they left. Maybe they treated you like an option while you gave them your everything. You replay the situation 100 times a day, trying to make sense of it. You wait for closure. But here's the reality. Closure isn't something they give you. It's something you give yourself the moment you decide, "I'm done letting this own me." That's letting go. That's reclaiming your power. Letting go doesn't mean you weren't hurt. It doesn't mean it didn't matter. It means you're choosing freedom over resentment. You're choosing your future over your past. You're choosing peace over pride. That takes courage. That takes maturity. That takes someone who's tired of suffering and ready to rise. People will say, but how do I let go? You don't do it all at once. It's not a switch. It's a decision you make again and again. Every time the memory resurfaces, you breathe through it and say, I release this. It no longer serves me. You train your mind to stop worshipping pain and start welcoming peace. Sometimes letting go is quiet. You don't always get to announce it. You just stop showing up for people who drain you. You stop answering messages that disturb your spirit. You stop revisiting wounds you've already outgrown. You stop explaining yourself to those who never really heard you. That's not giving up. That's growing up. Let go of the belief that you need their validation. Let go of the belief that your worth is tied to how they treated you. Let go of the version of you that tolerated things you now know better than to accept. That version of you had to exist so this version could be born. And what's on the other side of letting go? Stillness, clarity, energy you forgot you had, space for new people, new opportunities, new joy. The door can't open if you're blocking it with old pain. You can't fly if you're dragging dead weight. You don't have to carry everything. You're allowed to put it down. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to say I deserve better. You're allowed to heal. And most importantly, you're allowed to be free, not just from them, but from the version of you that thought survival meant holding on. So the next time you feel yourself gripping something that's ripping you apart, pause, breathe, and remember, you either let go, or you will be dragged. There is no peace in holding what is already gone. So as you walk away from this moment, remember this: your peace is your responsibility. Your power lies not in how loud you react, but in how deeply you choose to stay centered. Detach not to escape, but to protect your spirit. Control your emotions not to suppress them, but to guide them with wisdom. Know your worth, and never negotiate. Embrace stillness as your strength, pause as your strategy, and letting go as your liberation. You are not here to be shaken by every storm, triggered by every voice, or enslaved by your past. You are here to rise, to stand firm, and to walk in quiet confidence that nothing outside you is greater than the stillness within you. Be so grounded, so aware, so healed. Nothing and no one can steal your peace again.